You know, one of the most common things I hear from men and women once they get past 75 is this little sigh followed by, well, I guess this is just the way life goes now. Maybe you've said it yourself. A little stiffness in the morning, a bit of forgetfulness when you can't find your glasses, or the way energy just doesn't quite flow like it used to. It feels like nature has written the script, and all we're supposed to do is quietly follow along. But let me tell you something right from the start. That's not the whole truth. There are, in fact, hidden habits, simple, often overlooked things, that can stretch those years not only in length, but in depth of joy, clarity, and connection. And that's exactly what we're talking about today in Beyond 75, 3 hidden habits for a longer, healthier life. Senior Health Tips. I want to begin with a story. A gentleman named Harold walked into my office about 5 years ago. He was 77 at the time, a retired teacher, living alone since his wife had passed. Harold had always been active, but after turning 75, he started to feel what he described as a slow dimming of his light. He still walked to the grocery store, still read the newspaper every morning, but he felt sluggish, unmotivated, and he admitted he had quietly started to think his better days were behind him. His children worried, not because he was sick, but because he seemed to be slowly shrinking into himself. When Harold sat down in my office, I could see it in his eyes. He was asking me, "Is there still something more for me?" That question is one I've heard countless times across my 30-plus years as a men's health specialist. And the truth is, the answer is yes, absolutely yes. I'm Dr. Nolan Easton, and I've spent my career walking alongside men and women in their 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s, guiding them through the myths and misunderstandings about aging and helping them uncover what it really means to live fully in these years. And as we start this conversation today, I want you to hear this clearly. Your body, your mind, and your spirit are still capable of surprising you. There are hidden habits, often overlooked, that can reignite energy, sharpen memory, and restore a sense of vitality that makes you wake up and say, "Yes, I'm still here and I still matter." Now, Harold's story is important because it's a reflection of so many of us. He didn't come to me with a disease or a diagnosis. He came with a quiet resignation. And yet that resignation can be more dangerous than any illness because it convinces us to stop reaching, to stop trying, to stop believing that we can live fully. What I discovered with Harold, and what I've discovered with many of my patients, is that 3 seemingly small shifts, 3 hidden habits, can change the entire trajectory of those later years. And when I say hidden, I mean they're not the flashy trends you read about in magazines or the extreme routines that feel impossible to maintain. They're quiet, practical, and remarkably powerful when lived out consistently. Before I share the first of those habits, let me pause and talk directly to you, because this is where it matters. If you're sitting at home right now, nodding your head because you've felt some of what Harold felt, tiredness that doesn't go away, a sense of isolation, or simply wondering if there's more you could be doing for yourself, then this message is for you. And I want you to do something small but meaningful. If this conversation already speaks to you, I'd like you to tap that like button, subscribe to this channel, and ring the little bell icon. It helps me know that what we're sharing is reaching the right people. And because I read through the comments myself, I want you to write yes if you believe these years can still hold more life, or no if you're struggling to see that right now. Your answers help me shape these conversations to better meet you right where you are. So let's come back to Harold. The first hidden habit we worked on was something that sounds so simple, but it completely transformed his days. Purposeful movement. Not just exercise and not just walking the same block over and over. Purposeful movement means moving with intention, weaving activity into the fabric of life in a way that nourishes both the body and the mind. For Harold, It started with joining a small group that met at the park twice a week. They didn't just walk, they practiced balance exercises, gentle stretches, and light strength training. He told me after the first month that he hadn't felt so alive in years. Why? Because his body was waking up again, and his brain was firing in ways it hadn't when he was just sitting at home. But here's the deeper truth. Purposeful movement isn't just about muscles and joints. It's about signaling to yourself that you're still engaged, still here, still in motion in every sense of the word. And for seniors beyond 75, this kind of habit isn't optional. It's the difference between decline and renewal. I've watched men regain steadiness in their steps, women find confidence to carry their groceries again, and couples rediscover the joy of dancing, all because they decided to move with purpose. It's hidden because we often underestimate it. We think, well, I walked to the kitchen, that's enough. But the science and the lived experience of my patients shows us that even small, intentional patterns of movement can slow aging in ways no pill ever could. As Harold continued, another change began to happen. He smiled more. He reached out to his daughter and they planned a short trip together. His energy wasn't just physical, it became emotional, even spiritual. And this brings me to the second hidden habit, one that's often overlooked, but just as critical: deep connection. Now, I'm not talking about social media likes or casual small talk. I'm talking about meaningful human bonds that give our days purpose. Harold joined that walking group not just for the exercise, but because he was meeting people, laughing with them, feeling seen and heard. Within 6 months, her daughter told me he sounded like a different man. She said, "It's like I've got Dad back." Now, let me pause here because I want you to reflect. Do you have those connections in your life? Do you have at least one person you can call just to share your thoughts, your joys, your worries? If not, let me assure you, it's never too late to build them. I've seen men in their 80s forge friendships that gave them more life than any medicine could provide. And if you're watching this right now and thinking, I don't know where to begin, start small. A phone call to an old friend, saying hello to a neighbor you've only waved at, joining a group at the local senior center. Connection is nourishment every bit as much as food or water. Harold's journey just in that first year was extraordinary because it showed how small, hidden habits can lead to great renewal. But there's still one more we need to talk about, and this one often surprises people. And as I guide you through it, I want you to imagine how it could shift your own days, how it could bring back that light that you might have thought was gone.
When Harold first came back into my office after a few months of movement and connection, he looked different. His shoulders were set back, his eyes brighter, and he carried himself with an energy that was hard to miss. He told me, "Dr. Easton, I didn't think I'd feel this way again." That joy was contagious. But what struck me even more was when he added quietly, "I feel like I've got something to look forward to each morning." And that's when we began to uncover the third hidden habit that carried his transformation even further. Before I tell you what it is, let me pause and ask you a question. When you wake up, what's the first thought that crosses your mind? For many people past 75, it's a running list of aches, doctor appointments, or the same old routine. But what if that first thought was curiosity? What if it was excitement? What if it was simply the sense that today still matters? That's the essence of the third habit, nurturing purpose. Not a grand, world-changing mission, but a personal, daily purpose that gives shape to your hours and light to your days. For Harold, this began with gardening. He had always loved growing tomatoes and flowers when his wife was alive, but after she passed, the tools sat unused in his shed. One morning, after one of our conversations, he pulled them out again. At first, he thought it was just a way to fill time. But as the weeks went by, that garden became his source of purpose. He told me he couldn't wait to check on the new sprouts each morning. He began sharing the vegetables with his neighbors, which deepened his connections even more. That simple act, tending to life in the soil, gave him something powerful to wake up for. Now, you might be thinking, well, I don't have a garden, or I'm not sure what my purpose could be at this stage. Let me reassure you, purpose doesn't have to be big. It could be calling your grandson every Wednesday to hear about school. It could be knitting a blanket for your church. It could be volunteering an hour a week at the library. I once had a patient, 82 years old, whose purpose was writing short stories about his childhood to leave behind for his grandchildren. Each day, he'd sit at the kitchen table with a pen and notebook, and he said it gave him more energy than any medicine he'd ever been prescribed. What matters is not the size of your purpose, but the way it keeps your spirit alive. Purpose tells the body and the mind, we're not finished yet. And when we live with purpose, science shows us something extraordinary. Our risk of decline, mental, emotional, even physical, drops dramatically. People with a strong sense of purpose live longer, recover faster, and experience fewer symptoms of depression. But beyond the science, it just feels good. It gives the days meaning, and meaning is the greatest medicine we have. I want you to imagine what it would look like for you. Maybe it's something you've set aside years ago, like Harold's gardening. Maybe it's something you've never tried before, but always wanted to, like painting or playing the piano. Or maybe it's something as simple as deciding you'll be the neighbor who checks on the others, the one who notices when someone hasn't come outside for a while. These small acts create a web of purpose, and that web sustains life far beyond what you might expect. Now, if you've been following closely, you'll notice how these three hidden habits, movement, connection, and purpose, aren't separate compartments. They blend into each other. Movement gave Harold the energy to seek out connection. Connection encouraged him to rediscover his purpose, and purpose, in turn, gave meaning to his movement and joy to his connections. That's the beauty of living beyond 75. Once we set these habits in motion, they begin to feed each other, like a circle of life that grows stronger with time. But here's something important I want to say. These habits don't just add years to life, they add life to the years. Too often I hear people say, I don't want to live longer if I can't enjoy it. And I agree. Longevity without vitality is not the goal. What we're talking about here is renewal. Feeling alert, laughing with friends, staying steady on your feet, remembering your stories and sharing them with clarity. That's the gift these hidden habits offer. Let me take a moment to check in with you again, because I want this to be more than just words you hear on a screen. If what I'm saying resonates, if you've ever longed for more energy, more joy, or more meaning at this stage of life, then please go ahead and click that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and tap that little bell icon so you don't miss these conversations. And let me know in the comments, do you believe purpose is as important as exercise and diet? Write yes if you agree, or no if you're still not sure. I read these myself, and your voice helps me bring you the advice that matters most. Now, let me return to Harold for just a moment. Within a year of rediscovering his purpose, his daughter shared something that brought tears to my eyes. She told me, "Dad sounds like the man I grew up with. He's laughing again. He's telling stories. He's even planning things months ahead." Imagine that. A man who once thought his better days were behind him was now scheduling future trips and planting perennials he might not see bloom for years. But he had the hope that he just might. That's the power of hidden habits. And Harold's story isn't unique. I've seen this in countless patients, men and women who thought decline was inevitable, only to rediscover energy, resilience, and joy. And what's more, when one person makes these changes, it spreads. Families reconnect, neighbors bond, communities grow stronger. One patient once said to me, Dr. Easton, it feels like I've become a spark again, not just an ember. That's what I wish for you, too. So as you sit with this idea of purpose, I encourage you to ask yourself gently, what do I want to wake up for tomorrow? Don't pressure yourself to find a grand answer. Just one small, meaningful reason is enough to begin. And once you find it, nurture it, protect it, let it grow. Because that seed of purpose, once planted, will keep your life flourishing well beyond what you thought possible. As we move forward in this conversation, we'll go even deeper into how these habits play out in daily life and how you can begin to weave them naturally into your own routines. But for now, I want you to remember Harold's journey, from resignation to renewal, and hold on to the truth that it is never too late to rediscover the life waiting inside you.
When Harold and I sat down for one of his follow-up visits, he leaned in close and said something I'll never forget. He whispered, almost as though he didn't want to jinx it, "Dr. Easton, I feel like I'm living again." He wasn't boasting. He wasn't pretending. He was describing a quiet miracle that had unfolded because of those hidden habits we uncovered: movement, connection, and purpose. What Harold discovered is that these aren't just good ideas, they're lifelines. And once you begin to live them, you notice changes in places you didn't even expect. For example, Harold told me that his memory seemed sharper. He was remembering birthdays without writing them down. He felt more confident when driving to visit his daughter. He even recalled where he had left his glasses, which, if you're like most of us, is no small victory. And that's one of the overlooked gifts of these habits. They nourish the brain just as much as the body. Science backs this up. Purposeful movement increases blood flow to the brain. Social connection reduces the risk of cognitive decline. And a strong sense of purpose stimulates mental activity in ways that keep our minds sharper. But let me step back and talk to you personally, because I know many of you watching might be carrying private fears. I've had patients sit across from me and confess, "Dr. Easton, I'm scared of losing myself. I'm scared of becoming a burden." And I want you to hear me clearly. Fear is natural, but it doesn't have to be the driver of your later years. By practicing these hidden habits, you shift the focus from fear of decline to hope for renewal. You take back control in a stage of life where many feel powerless. Let me share another story, this time about Margaret, an 81-year-old woman who came to me with worries about loneliness. Her husband had passed, her children were busy with their own families, and she admitted she felt invisible. After a gentle conversation, we explored ways to build connection and purpose. She decided to volunteer one afternoon a week at the local elementary school, helping children learn to read. Within a few months, she was radiant. She told me, "Those kids light up when they see me, and I light up too." That one commitment gave her a sense of being needed, of mattering, which is something we all crave no matter our age. Margaret began walking more to keep up with her new schedule, made friends with other volunteers, and even started teaching her granddaughter how to bake cookies on weekends. Margaret's journey, like Harold's, illustrates something profound. Small steps grow into transformations. And if you're watching this, perhaps wondering whether it's too late, I want you to see yourself in these stories. Whether you're 75, 85, or even 95, your life still holds room for light, laughter, and growth. Now, let me ask you gently, are you giving yourself permission to imagine more for your life? It's so easy at this age to narrow our world, to say, "I can't do that anymore," or "That's for younger folks." But what if, instead of shrinking your world, you expanded it just a little? Not with impossible goals, but with small, meaningful choices. Maybe it's walking an extra block, joining a book club, or writing down memories for your grandchildren. These aren't luxuries, they are investments in your vitality. I want to pause here and ask you to engage with me. If what I'm saying stirs something inside you, if it makes you nod your head or think of someone you know, please take a moment to click the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and tap the bell so you don't miss future conversations. And in the comments, write, "Yes, if you believe it's never too late to rediscover life, or no, if you still find yourself doubting. I read these responses carefully because your honesty helps me guide these discussions in a way that truly serves you. Now, there's something else I want to highlight. These hidden habits don't just benefit you, they ripple outward. When Harold started moving with purpose, his daughter noticed and felt relieved. When Margaret began volunteering, she not only brightened her own life, but also changed the lives of children who needed her encouragement. Your renewal inspires others. I've seen grandchildren adopt healthier habits because their grandfather decided to start walking every morning. I've seen neighbors create little support circles because one woman invited them over for tea. So when you practice these habits, you're not just changing your own life, you're shaping the lives of those around you. And that matters, because one of the deepest fears of aging is the idea that we'll fade into the background, that our lives will no longer make a difference. But the truth is, you still have an influence. You still carry wisdom, warmth, humor, and love that this world needs. The question is whether you'll choose to share it. Purpose and connection open that door wide. Let me return to Harold for a moment. He told me about a day when his neighbor, a widower in his 70s, came by and asked if he could help in the garden. Before long, they were working side by side, swapping stories, and soon the neighbor began to blossom too. What started as Harold's personal renewal became a shared renewal. And isn't that a beautiful picture? One person's light sparking another's light until the whole community shines a little brighter. Now, I know some of you might be listening and thinking, that sounds wonderful, but I don't have the energy to start. I want to encourage you with this. Energy grows when you use it. The more Harold moved, the more he wanted to move. The more Margaret connected, the more she looked forward to connection. Don't wait to feel ready. Begin gently, and the energy will follow. Even 5 minutes of movement, a single phone call, or writing one page in a journal can set the cycle in motion. And if you stumble along the way, that's okay. Progress isn't measured by perfection. It's measured by persistence. What matters is that you keep leaning into life, even in small ways. With time, those small ways build into something remarkable. As we continue this conversation, I want you to carry these images with you. Harold smiling in his garden, Margaret laughing with children at the library, neighbors connecting over shared effort. These are not extraordinary people. They are everyday men and women who simply chose to embrace hidden habits that restored their vitality. And the truth is, you can do the same.
One afternoon, Harold came into my office with dirt still under his fingernails and a grin across his face. He had just finished planting a row of tomatoes with his neighbor, and he couldn't stop talking about how good the soil felt in his hands. "Dr. Easton," he said, "I thought my best days were behind me, but I'm proving myself wrong every morning." That single sentence summed up everything we'd been working toward. It wasn't just about health in the traditional sense. It was about life, full, vibrant, purposeful life beyond 75. And as I looked at Harold that day, I thought of the many men and women I've met over the years who have told me some version of, "I'm too old to change." But I've also witnessed time and again that when you nurture these hidden habits, movement, connection, and purpose, you can experience transformation in ways that surprise even you. The body grows steadier, the mind grows sharper, and the heart grows fuller. Aging isn't an ending, it's an opportunity to rediscover yourself. I want you to think for a moment about what we've explored together. Purposeful movement doesn't mean running marathons. It means moving with intention in ways that bring strength and balance to your days. Deep connection isn't about having 100 friends. It's about having someone to laugh with, someone to listen, someone who knows your story. And nurturing purpose doesn't mean solving the world's problems. It means finding a reason, small but meaningful, to greet each day with curiosity and hope. When these 3 habits work together, they form a foundation for a life that doesn't just last longer, but feels richer. I've seen men in their 80s dance at weddings without fear of falling. I've seen women in their 70s start painting classes and discover talents they never knew they had. I've seen neighbors build little circles of friendship that carried them through illness, grief, and recovery. And I've seen Harold, at 82, stand taller than he did at 77, not because of medicine, but because of the light that purpose, connection, and movement gave him. Now, I know it's not always easy. Life gives us aches, losses, and challenges that we can't always control. But what we can control are the habits we choose to live by. And if those habits nourish our bodies, strengthen our minds, and brighten our spirits, then we tilt the balance in our favor, no matter what comes our way. Let me turn to you directly now. What do you want the next 5 years of your life to look like? 10 years? Do you want them to be marked by decline and quiet resignation? Or do you want them filled with moments of laughter, energy, and meaning? The choice is more in your hands than you may realize. And that's what gives me so much hope every time I sit down with someone like Harold. Because the moment you begin, even with something small, you start rewriting your own story. And speaking of small, let me encourage you. Don't feel like you need to overhaul your life tomorrow morning. Start with one hidden habit. Maybe today you walk 5 extra minutes. Tomorrow you call a friend you haven't spoken to in years. The day after that, you write down one thing you're grateful for. These tiny steps are seeds, and with time, they grow into a garden of vitality. Just like Harold's tomatoes, they may start small, but they'll feed you in ways you can't imagine right now. I'd like to pause here and invite you to take part in this community we're building. If this conversation has encouraged you, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap that little bell icon so you don't miss future videos. And in the comments, tell me this. Do you believe it's still possible to rediscover joy and vitality beyond 75? Write yes if you do, or no if you're still not convinced. I read through those comments myself, and your voices guide me in shaping the advice I share with you. Before I close, I want to return to the very beginning of our conversation, the sigh I often hear when someone says, "I guess this is just the way life goes now." My message to you is this: that sigh does not have to be the last word. You still have choices. You still have power. You still have life within you waiting to be lived. Whether it's a morning walk, a heartfelt conversation, or a newfound purpose that stirs your heart, you have the ability to breathe new light into your days. Harold thought his better years were behind him, but he discovered, step by step, that renewal was possible. And so can you. Because the truth is, life beyond 75 isn't about winding down. It's about opening up to a different kind of abundance. An abundance of presence, of relationships, of meaning. So let me leave you with this. Your story is still being written, and you hold the pen. Choose to write it with movement, with connection, and with purpose. Choose to let your light shine brightly, not just for yourself, but for those who love you and those who will come after you. This is Dr. Nolan Easton, and I want to thank you for sharing this time with me. May you walk into tomorrow not with resignation, but with renewed hope, knowing that life still holds more for you than you ever thought possible. Stay well, stay connected, and stay purposeful. And remember, you are not finished yet.